Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tammy Reger, and I am a higher self-illumination healer. And today I want to talk about something that really has been bugging me for a while, and it's a video that I've been putting off and putting off and putting off. But today I can no longer ignore it. It's time for it to be said. And this is the video about the truth of what the matrix is. There's a lot of disinformation out there about what it is. And this idea that we're supposed to escape the matrix is a diversion and very much a distraction against what we are supposed to be doing as a soul during this time and place. The Matrix in that movie, the Matrix, right, showed the matrix as ones and zeros. And for those of us who have spent time in technology writing programming, I understand that ones and zeros is programming. The matrix is a set of programs. That is all. And this idea that there's one matrix is the problem. There isn't just one matrix. The universe is a matrix. You are a matrix. Your instructions or programming to allow your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe is a matrix. It's programming, beliefs, instructions for your body to be able to operate, instructions on how you see the world. So while there is matrix work to be done, it is not to escape it. If you escape it, you don't exist. The universe has a set of instructions that it runs every day. The laws of the universe, if you will, the laws of gravity, the law of compassion, the law of attraction, the law of time. Those are all programming that are instrumental to the universe. Now, the law of time is something that definitely is a matrix that is inherent to Earth and a 3D reality. But even from a universal standpoint, there's still a law of time that goes beyond the version that many of us find ourselves in the 3D reality on Earth in this lifetime. But it's still programming. Before you were born, there was a meeting of the minds, if you will, where Creator, your guides, your ancestors, and your higher self agreed for you to do something in this life, learn something, heal something, whatever it is. That is your programming for this lifetime. Your outline, just like when you go to a wedding or an event, they give you that pamphlet that gives you an outline of what the steps are. First, they do the, I haven't been into a wedding in a long time, but where they go through all the steps of the wedding, and that outline already exists. And there's a matrix just to that. So my whole thing for this is to get you out of the idea that you're supposed to escape from it. Because there's a matrix of joy. There's a matrix of peace. And there's a matrix of abundance. And there's a matrix of unconditional love. Because it's just programming. And there isn't just one. They're nested. There's an overall matrix from the universal standpoint. All the planets have their own matrices, as well as Earth has its own matrix, as well as New Earth has its own matrix. But all of those matrices are supposed to be manipulated for you to change things, but it's not for you to escape them. Instead, you work within yourself to release yourself from the matrices or programming of fear or anger or hurt or deception, and allow yourself to tap into the matrices of joy, peace, abundance, creativity, co-creation, manifestation, whatever it be. And depending on where you have been in all of your lifetimes, who you have worked with, what you have studied, what you've already learned, will determine how the matrices within you are overlaid. Some of us have experienced deep persecution or banishment or punishment or torture when we allowed ourselves to live in the joy matrix. So it's like armored off because we can't get there because of these traumas that we've experienced in other lifetimes. So then we just find ourselves stuck in the matrix of fear that exists within us. Now, in a minute, I'll talk about how the group collective fits into this. But first, I just want to talk about you as an individual and how you can shift the matrices within yourself so that you can free yourself of the matrices that no longer serve you and allow you to align with the programming, because they're one and the same, so that you experience more joy, peace, direction, clarity in this lifetime and future lifetimes. So through different modalities, I started with theta healing. This is my bread and butter where I started, and I learned that I could change my beliefs within myself, and then my world will shift inside of myself as well as outside of myself. And then I started to see that the matrix programming was actually inside of myself, and that I had control over what was running and what wasn't running. And there's power in that. The whole thing around this idea that we need to escape from the matrix is very disempowering. This idea that we're fighting against something, right? But really, you're just fighting against your own programming. And with theta healing, I was able to really get into, okay, I get to control this and what matrices are or are not running. Now, there's obviously matrices or programming that is running within you that you can't change and you don't want to change, like your digestion, your heart beating, your breathing, or brain functionality, or cell metabolism, because those are the things that keep your human vessel alive, which your body lives, your soul lives in at this point. You need that in order to experience this lifetime. To experience this lifetime on earth, you chose to be in a vessel, which came with programming, so that your cells, your nerves, your brain, your DNA knows how to operate in this existence. And while you don't want to change any of that, right? Now, we may talk about the fact there's some upgrading to that going on, but in general, there's programming that shouldn't be changed. But it's all the other stuff. We have had lifetimes of, like I said, persecution and things and trauma that has caused us to lock ourselves inside of programming matrices that are just looping within ourselves. And no matter what we do, we always seem to come back to that same loop-de-loop. It's like being on that roller coaster and just looping and looping and looping and looping. You're dizzy, you want off. You just want to be like, what the hell? And you have the power in yourself to create an exit off of that loop so that you can shift out of that matrix programming that's running inside of you. And you can, and with theta, you download the new programming that gets you out of that. So let's say, as an example, maybe you find yourself in a lack loop-de-loop, where you feel like money is something that you desire, but you can never keep it, or if it comes slowly and you just loop and loop and loop and loop. Well, we can change the belief of I am lack to I am abundance. But then source, through theta healing, can give you the programming so that your body knows how to exist in abundance and call that into you instead of lack. Now that goes much, much deeper than that, but that's an idea of how that works. And that really changed my life when I realized that I get to change what happens to me. And that things outside of me, with some of the beliefs that go around it, don't have to be my reality. And if you want to hear more about that, you should join my Facebook group, because I'm going to really go into deeper about some of those stories and some of the ways that I've used theta, as well as the psychomodality that I'll talk about in a bit, to change how my body reacts to things. We all have our own stories, but I usually use my stories a lot for you to understand that I may not have exactly the same experience as you, but I have been there in a way, and you can start to relate, and then you can see that you also have a way to get out of this without thinking that you're escaping from some monster called the matrix. Because it's not a monster, it is you. Your chakras have matrices, your eyes have matrices, it's throughout your body. And when you start to realize that you can change the programming in them so that you align with the energy of joy, peace, abundance, creativity, co-creation, manifesting, it all that stuff happens with more ease, because that's the code that you're always running, and not the code of fear and anger and sacrifice and lack. It's not there anymore. And what happens is when you shift your programming, you see that in the world. So right now, many people talk about how we're shifting from the old earth to a new earth. And it's through our programming and the changing of our programming that allows us to shift and see that new earth already exists. It's just that we can't see it because we don't believe that she's there yet, due to some of the limiting beliefs and traumas that we've experienced in other timelines. This timeline that we're in right now is very parallel to a lot of Atlantean stuff. So a lot of that matrix programming is coming up to the surface, but not to torture us, but to heal us, because we can change that programming so that we don't have to keep experiencing that over and over and over again. Who wants that? Who would like to come back when a time after you've spent this lifetime changing all your programming so that next time you come, you don't have to deal with that anymore? And it can be that peaceful, abundant, exciting, playful time that your heart calls for, your soul calls for. So yes, there's a matrix to escape, but it's not escaping. It's about changing it. And you have the power within you to do that right now. And it's been there all along. There are many people who maybe don't want you to know that, because once you realize that you're in control of your own beliefs and you get to choose what programming you accept and what programming you don't, they can't control you anymore. And there are people who do that. Marketing is a big example. I remember when I turned 40 and people would say, oh, at 40, you're going to gain weight and you're going to get this and you're going to get gray hair and you're going to get all this stuff. And those are just beliefs that they're planting into your matrix programming. So then your body manifests that that's true. But when you start to own your matrix and own your programming, you can say to those people, no, not happening to me. No, that's not happening to me either. No, that's not happening to me either. Instead, this is what's going to happen to me. At 40, I'm going to be beautiful. I'm going to be thin, strong, flexible, and healthy, instead of what they're trying to sell to you so that they can sell a product. You have control over this. You can't control how other people's programming is. That's their soul's job, and what they came here to shift it to is really up to whatever was agreed before they came into this existence. You are in control of your own programming, though, and that's part of what your soul is here to do in this lifetime, is to heal the wounds of the past, to clear the limiting beliefs so that you yourself can reincarnate in a future timeline or even a past one and not have all this garbage with you, so that the experience is more easy, it flows better, it's more in alignment, it has that peace and remembrance that your soul calls for. So there's no red pill or blue pill, and there's not a purple pill. I was on that train for a while, and then I started to see that that's not really the answer either. The answer is to just ditch the pills and understand that you yourself are your own pill. And again, I'll talk about how the collective fits into this at time. But I want you to just tap into a moment how powerful that feels to know that you can change your own programming, which is the matrix. And by doing so, you untie yourself from group collective matrices of fear or anger, and allow yourself to tie into group matrices of joy, peace, harmony. They all already exist. It's just that whatever programming or matrices you're running within your physical being is what you're plugging into in the group collective. So if you don't want to be in the group collective of fear anymore, you have to change the program within you and change your matrix code so that you no longer plug into the group collective of fear. And instead you tie into the group collective of balance or peace or love, whatever it is, or maybe all of the above. You have that power. It's like if you think about matrices as a computer, and each of these computers is running a different matrix of limitation, fear, anger, the lower frequency emotions. And when you change the programming in yourself so that no longer runs, you're yanking the power cards from the walls, which in the walls is the group collective, so that you are no longer tapping into that, and you're no longer giving your energy to that matrix. And the more people who pull out of the matrix of fear, who pull out of the matrix of anger, reduces the power, so eventually it can't exist. It only runs because we're plugging into it. Because we're running matrix code that makes us believe that we need to be in that in order to be safe, in order to matter, whatever the programming is. I've been doing this long enough to know that I can't tell you what the belief is or the emotion is that needs to change in order for you to unplug from the group consciousness matrix. We're all different. We've all had all kinds of different past lives that have all kinds of different trauma, have all different kinds of events, emotions, all of it that have created limiting beliefs that then are now causing us to loop in these matrices of fear or anger or even hatred, and then plugging us into those same group collective matrices. So you have the power to change this. And it's not about escaping anything. It's about you owning your own programming so that you can shift to the matrices of programming that align with who you are as a soul, which is expansive, limitless, abundant, joyful, peaceful, harmony, balance, and so much more. But you have to own it. You have the power of that inside of you, and it is waiting. And your soul is waiting for you to remember that. This isn't new. There was a time and place on this earth where we could do this all the time. But because of the things that have happened on earth, they've been buried below all of this programming that has caused what feel like prison matrices within us, where we feel like we can't escape what's happening on earth or around us. And many would lead you to believe that you have to somehow get beyond that, what's happening outside of us. But really, you have to get within yourself and change the programming that's allowing you to tie into those group matrices of fear, hate, anger, grief, shame, guilt, whatever it is. And I kind of explained how theta healing would help with that, but I want to help you understand where the higher self illumination comes from and how that also plays into this. So this higher self illumination healing, I work with your higher self to figure out the points in time where these events happened that created these matrices of fear, anger, hatred, guilt, and shame happened so that we can yank the whole thing. We yank all the emotions that are tied to it. We yank all the limiting beliefs that were created from it, so that that matrix literally is collapsed within you. Now, some matrices are multi-layered. You may have a session and we pull a fear timeline, but there could be other fear timelines. So then it just, until you get to that point. I know I've been doing this for like 8 years, and some matrices of programming that I felt was very limiting for myself are gone. And then there are others I'm still working through. Remember, some of us have lived thousands of years on Earth, or potentially even other planets, and that's a lot to work through. But your soul, your higher self, knows what the assignment is. It knows which lifetimes are causing you the most strife, the most hurt, the most distraction away from your true purpose. And it knows which ones need to shift, so you can tap into the matrices of joy, the law of compassion, the law of attraction, the law of truth, the law of magnetism. There's all kind, cause and effect. There's so many of them. Or you can tap into the programming of abundance, or the programming of success, or the programming of health. All of that already exists. It's just that the programming matrix programming within you is not aligned with the matrix programming that exists as part of the universe that is of the higher frequency emotions, I'll say. So between the two, between theta healing and as well as this higher self illumination healing that I do, which is something that I have coined, it's not something that I am teaching at the moment. That may happen in the future. But I do help clients do that. And I do teach people how to do theta healing so that they can fix their own programming, so that they can escape the limiting matrices of programming that they're running within themselves, so that they can tap into the new earth matrices of joy, abundance, peace, balance, harmony, all of that. So I'm hoping this has helped you, because this is something that has rubbed me the wrong way for a long time, and I've never sat down and actually did the video for it, but today it kept showing up in my Facebook feed, and I take that as like a nudge from spirit, like, hey, you remember that video we told you to do about the matrix? Like, can you go do that? Because it's time for people to understand that they are not powerless, that they're not powerless on all the crap that's happening around the world, whether in your country or whether in another country on the other side of the world. The power lives within you. Not for you to go out and hurt someone else or try to get them to believe as you do. The power is within you to disconnect from the matrix programming that's allowing you to tap into the group collective, which is then manifesting proof of those fears, the things that you hate, the things that lack guilt, shame, and allow you to tie into the matrices that already exist of joy, abundance, peace, and harmony, so that you can start to see that in the outside world and you feel like you're on the right path. Now, just a couple of things about matrices. Even when you're not doing the programming, not doing the inner work, which is part of it, many of us are working through getting our matrix programming in alignment when we sleep at night. Many of us are astral traveling, and we're also doing a lot of work. And I find that when my higher self is trying to work through matrix programming that it wants to collapse, I find myself in dreams with some of these similar things, and based on some of my clients, to give you an idea. So anytime I know that that's where I'm going, like I'm working through collapsing another matrix within myself, I'm either stuck in a parking lot with multiple levels. I can't get out. There doesn't seem to be a way out. I get lost and it's dark and I'm wandering and all that. I've seen that. And I've been lost in buildings or elevators where the elevators go up and down and it doesn't seem to ever find anything. It's because I know I have awakened to the fact that I'm in a matrix and I'm looking for a way out. Usually, when I can remember it, there's some conscious programming that I need to address for me to get out of it. And what I do is I just do my own work on myself and I ask, okay, what is it that's preventing me from collapsing this matrix? And I clear it and then the matrix collapses. In my Facebook group, I provided a short video on a matrix that I felt was a group collective matrix that was shifting a week or two ago. I'll drop the link for my Facebook group below. It's called, I recently changed it. I believe it's Spiritually Awakening Women Collective. So if you want to join that, you do have to be a woman. For now, that's where I'm being led. So that's what I'm doing. If you want to schedule a session, or you can always do that if you're not a woman. And I will, and then you can also, let's see, I'll drop all the links down below so that you can get access to some of my content without being in the Facebook group. So back to the dream. So parking lots and buildings that you can't escape. I've had clients where they're stuck in matrices that they can't get out of. Remember, inner matrices. Malls that don't seem to have any exits. They're just wandering aimlessly between all these levels. That's another way it will show up. And you are constantly, every day, depending on what choices you make, you're deciding whether to collapse or keep a matrix based on your choices. But your higher self and your guides and source in tow are helping you collapse the matrices within yourself that are preventing you from knowing who you truly are at the core. And that's what this is all about. This whole lifetime is remembering who you really are at the core of who you are, your truth, your gifts, your knowledge that many of you have already mastered in other lifetimes, but because of amnesia, we don't remember it. And we spend, the first half of our life trying to remember who we are. But your higher self knows the plan in order to get that. And you consciously have the ability to shift the programming so it becomes easier. So when you see things about escaping the matrix, I don't want you to think there's anything to escape from. Because escape means that somehow, to me, escaping means that it's out of my control. That it's something I need to run from. It's something that I need to be afraid of, something that can have control over me. And yes, while that might be true for you at this moment, because you don't understand that you actually are in control, that it's not something to run from, and it's not something to be afraid of, then you understand the power that lives within you, waiting for you to remember that you can change this so that you can tie in to the matrix programming that is aligned with where your soul wants you to be. And in that, align with New Earth. New Earth is a matrix. It's programming. And again, maybe I find it very simplistic because I did do programming for like 5 years or so. And then I switched to testing software, which I pretty much got paid to break things, which isn't a bad deal. But in that, I was able to see how the two are similar, especially as I moved into theta healing and saw that just like computers and your smartphone, humans have programming, good or bad, neutral, it doesn't matter. You have the ability to change it though. So however that happens for you, if you already have a way to do that, that's great. If you want to know more about how you can do that, jump into my Facebook group. If you're a woman, again, I'm sorry if you're a man. If you're a man, again, I have an Instagram account that you can plug into, as well as I will still be doing YouTube videos. So you can start to come out of that. Now, I want to clarify why they want me to clarify why I'm focusing on women. And not that men haven't experienced lifetimes of BS trauma, because they have. But right now I feel called to help women, because women through centuries and centuries and centuries have lost their voice. Many of us have been burned at the stake, to say, for sharing our voice and our gifts. And that's where I feel the most called to help. It doesn't mean I won't help a man. It's just that that's where spirit is leading me. So hope you understand that. If you have questions, you can always send me an email. So I hope this was helpful to you. I want you to know that there is no overarching thing that's puppeting you. You are your own puppet, and you have control over how you experience the world through your own matrix programming. And you can do that, and you can learn how to do that very easily. So again, if you want help with that, you can send me an email. My website is www.wellbeingism.com if you wanted to schedule a session. If you're a woman, you can join my Facebook group, and I will share some more stuff there. But I hope this was helpful. I hope I gave you some empowerment back with this whole idea of a matrix and needing to escape it, because it's not meant to be disempowering at all. It's about empowering you to know that you can change how the programming is running within you without getting the world outside you to change. There are people who believe that the group consciousness has to shift first. But really, if you have 1 million people in a group consciousness, good luck. That's a lot. But really, what needs to happen is that we each need to disconnect from these group collective matrices of fear, violence, vengeance, grudge, guilt, all of those. And when we unplug from those, we plug into the new matrix programming in New Earth, which is joy, peace, abundance, creativity, play, fun, where life is more in flow. So, and the more people who do the inner work to disconnect from that collective group consciousness, the less people are in that group collective, and it starts to shrink until it eventually collapses because there's not enough energy to keep it sustainable. But if more people plug into the group collective of joy, peace, abundance, harmony, and balance, that collective grows. And the overarching theme we will see on Earth is that, not the old. So you do have power in this. It's not hopeless. You have the power to do this. And when you start to do this, you'll start to see how your life shifts, how the world around you shifts, how the people around you shift, and how your shift in perspective will start to show you opportunities that you didn't see before. So I invite you on the ride. Come join me. Let's talk about how you can do this and how it can be easy to do this. And it doesn't have to be hard. Let's build together that joy programming matrix, that balance and harmony matrix, balance the abundance matrix, so that we can blow those out. So that is what is in existence on physically in the Earth reality instead of where we are now. And if you want to join me, you can see all my links below in the description, and I hope to see you there. If not, I'll see you on my next video. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.